It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Thank you, my friends, for joining us. I'm Sam Lesante. And folks, let me ask you a question. If you knew someone was in need of something, would you help them? I'm sure you would. And for all my viewers, I hope that this show is going to be very informative to you. I'm honored to be here today at the Chancery building in Scranton, Pennsylvania, with our good Bishop Joseph Bambera. And a lot of questions we're going to talk about today, but I want to stress about the annual appeal. And I want to read something to you folks, just so you know this. Annual appeal donations are restricted to be used to support 5 diocesan ministries. Gifts to the appeal are used solely to support these ministries and will not be used to defray legal fees or to fund the recently established Survivors Compensation Program. So you know when you're giving to the annual appeal, you're helping people. Good Bishop, thanks for joining me on the Sam Lesante Show.
Thanks, Sam. I'm glad to be with you.
It's always nice to be here.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Just so you know, folks, he renewed my wedding vows. Was it when you were the pastor St. John Bosco?
Mm-hmm.
You know, is that good or bad? Renewing the wedding vows?
I'd have to check with your wife. I think.
Bishop, you needless to say, it's been a challenging time for all of us, I always say that prayers are so very important. But let's talk first about the annual appeal. Then we get into some areas that I think we should discuss. The annual appeal, okay? Why is that so important for our diocese?
Well, first of all, the appeal, which for the last number of years, and including this year, has had a $5 million goal. That's $5 million that is put into those 5 areas that you referenced. And I can tick them right off for you, and I'd like to talk about one in particular. Catholic social services, the good work that CSS does. Catholic education, the education and formation of priests and the care for retired priests. Communications, and parish life, which really affects all of us in one way or another. But you know, I'm so proud to have this opportunity to talk with you in particular, who represent the community by and large in the lower Luzerne County region and the good people of Hazleton and its suburbs. We're right now, through Catholic Social Services, which is funded by the appeal, in the process of completing a major program in the greater Hazleton area. I suspect you're aware of it, but it's something that I'm really privileged to highlight. You may know that some time ago we took over the former school at Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and that's been an area, we've used that facility for Catholic Social Services, for offices and the like. But you also probably are aware of the fact that for the past several years, we have been working with other denominations, Christian denominations in the greater Hazleton area, trying to support a moving shelter for the poor in Hazleton. Well, what we've been able to do through the support of Catholic Social Services and through 2 major grants that we have gotten, one from the Weinberg Foundation for over $525,000, and one from Wyoming and Luzerne County's Mental Health and Development Services, which have funded us with a grant of over $700,000, is to refurbish the former school at Our Lady of Mount Carmel into a permanent shelter. So now the poor won't be even treated worse like second-class citizens moving from week to a different shelter, as much as we were grateful for the churches that helped us to do that. But they'll have a permanent place to stay in the cold. And we're also going to use a portion of that facility for mental health and developmental services to help individuals who have aged out of foster care, to help equip them to live on their own eventually. I'm so thrilled with that opportunity. That's over $1.2 million worth of effort that has been infused into the greater Hazleton area that'll help the poor and those who are struggling. We're also going to be doing some work with the food pantry there as well, and hope to dedicate that facility in early 2019. You can see in your community, right through that alone, not to mention the Catholic school, not to mention a number of viable, vibrant parish communities served by young and old and retired priests, that Catholic Social Services, leading the charge, is representing a lot of good work that is done through the appeal.
I had the opportunity of many times going down to see and deal at the Catholic Services, as well as in Scranton and different places. And I say to our viewers that everybody wants to help, and they know that if the money's going to help, it's a good opportunity. But when you actually see for yourself, Bishop, and you see these families and these young people and being helped and served, that's the physical thing that you could see. We talk about all these different things, but when you actually see these people being helped, you know, it's such a rewarding, you know, rewarding.
It really is, and all those points that you talked about with the appeal, they're core to our mission as a church. You know, it's fair to say, and we'll talk a little bit more about this. This year's appeal is struggling a little bit. We are right now at $2.5 million. That's half of a $5 million goal. We're a little bit behind last year, and that's obviously the result of the release of the grand jury report investigating child sexual abuse by members of the clergy. A lot of people have expressed concern about giving to the appeal. I'm pleased that you mentioned right up front the fact that the appeal proceeds do not go to do anything else but the 5 areas of mission that we talked about. We'll have a lot of other expenses in other areas, but they won't be funded by the appeal. So, you know, as individuals struggle with some of the issues that we're facing right now in the church in this moment of crisis, the appeal ensures that the good mission of the church that affects our people in so many and different ways will continue. And, you know, it's interesting. We made the decision early on, because the appeal formally began about a week or two after the grand jury report was released. We thought we can't impose on our people at that moment a lot of the typical things that we do with the appeal. You know, we made the decision not to do an in-pew Pledge Sunday. We made the decision not to show a video that we typically have done. A number of people expressed the fact that they were upset with the appeal. But you know what is most encouraging to me? More people contacted my office and the appeal office to say, we're willing to help you out, Bishop. At this point in our history, I'm willing to give you more than I did last year, because I know you're going to be up against the challenge. And so with that in mind, we're actually going to start to re-energize and refocus our parishes a little bit more in the next few months to support it.
Hence this show. But let me ask you this, Bishop. How many priests have we had in the last 30 years or 40 years in our diocese? Probably thousands. How many priests have given their life to God and serviced us? And yet may have, and it was devastating. There's no question about it. And you've been very forthright with that. But we have so many great priests that have given their lives to God and helped their parishes. Mm-hmm. I mean, and sure, they're upset. How do you respond to that? You've responded, but respond on my show. How do you respond to that?
You know, first off, you're right. One priest who abuses an innocent life is one too many. And there were 59 in the Diocese of Scranton that were listed in that grand jury report. But you're also right that over the past 70 years that report looked at, we've had hundreds and hundreds of priests. I couldn't even give you the precise number. All I know is that when I was born in 1956 and in the early 60s, our numbers rose to the highest ever. We had at one point over 450 active priests at one time in the Diocese of Scranton. Now we have about 120. That's a big shift that we've seen over the last 30, 40, 50 years. But, you know, you ask how I respond to the situation that we're facing right now. I think the better way to answer that question is not so much with my words, but what our people are saying to our priests. I'm extremely concerned not only about our good lay faithful who have been affected by this crisis very, very significantly. Disappointed, let down, angry, feel as though trust has been broken, and it has been. But in the midst of that, I worry about good, faithful priests who are working very hard. And you know what has been the consensus that has been shared with me as I've connected with my clergy over the past 4 or 5 months, and I've done that on many occasions? They have said to me, almost without exception, you know what? These are challenging times, but our people have been so good to us. Our people have been so good to me, they'll say. And why? Because they know them. And we were talking before we started about your relationship with priests that you know and how supportive you are of them. And I'm so grateful that our people, in the midst of all of the struggle that goes with this, are big enough to say, but we still care for our priests because we know that they are who they are for us.
And that's a challenge we all face, and I'm hoping and praying that people who have been affected or upset, I talk to them every day. When I told them I was interviewing you and asked the bishop this and how come the bishop that, etc. I have a good friend who we sit in church every 4:30 at St. John Bosco, and I want, she was thinking of leaving the church, and I said, I'm talking to the bishop. Well, I would hope he would explain what's going on, and I said, well, you have faith. Father Brosk delivered a sermon when this hit at our church. He was substituting for Father Palmer at the time, and he delivered such a beautiful, touching thing about the people who were there. He was actually in tears. Bishop. It was such a wonderful display of a priest who has worked all his life and all the people there supporting him, and not him, but the church. Mm-hmm. He got a 2-minute ovation of what he delivered because of his sincerity of being a priest. So many great priests we have, and to give it up because of these challenges. We come back and talk a little bit more. I'm talking to Bishop Bambera, folks. Remember the annual appeal. If you haven't given anything, please consider it. It's a great opportunity when you see these people being helped, okay? And all those great priests who are retired now, remember they gave you, who was at your wedding, who was at communion, who comforted you when you had unfortunate things in your life, deaths in your family. These are priests. We support them through the annual appeal. Nuns, and Mother Grace, those great nuns that helped me get an education. We'd like to support them. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Remember, 24/7, SSP TV, you can watch all of our shows. Download the app. Just search SSP TV and you'll be able to get all of our shows on the app. And for those of you who do not have cable, which you should, download YouTube. All the shows are there and they're translated into Spanish as well. Today I'm with the good bishop of the Diocese of Scranton, Bishop Joseph Bambera, who used to be our pastor, St. John Bosco. And I really appreciate the fact that you've taken the time out to discuss this, areas. The annual appeal, there are 5 areas of the annual appeal. Briefly, let's talk about those areas that the appeal goes to.
Okay. Well, we spoke a lot about Catholic Social Services and the good work that that does, from providing counseling services to being connected with shelters that we have at various places in the Diocese of Scranton. Here in Scranton, we have a cooperative venture in Wilkes-Barre, trying to look for a permanent place there. That's a little bit harder, and we're just currently providing one now in the for the greater Hazleton area. So Catholic Social Services, that is a real hands-on way of dealing with people who are in need. Feeding, sheltering, speaking to them, caring for them in terms of their needs, etc. Real gospel values. We have the education of our priests. We have 12 men at the moment in formation for priestly ministry. They're wonderful, wonderful young men, and a little bit older, and we're thrilled to have them. We will be ordaining, I believe, 3 or 4 men to the diaconate in the spring of 2019. We just had a wonderful 2 priests who were ordained this past June, Ed Casey, who's serving in the Clark Summit area, and Ryan Glenn, who is from Mountaintop and who is currently serving here in Scranton as well. So we take care of our men in formation, and we also provide for our retired priests. And we have a lot of them who work just as hard, and we sometimes joke, even harder in retirement. I think of Monsignor Kashenbaugh, who lives in West Hazleton, who,
God bless him.
He won't mind this in the least bit, who is 91 years young, and who literally keeps a schedule like I do.
He is fantastic.
He's an incredible man.
He is absolutely fantastic. But a good continue, I'm sorry.
And in addition to that, we have communications, which deals with Catholic television and what that provides for us in many parts of our diocese, the Catholic Light and our online opportunities. We have the Office of Parish Life and support for parish ministries. And finally, the 5th category would be Catholic education. And we have obviously Catholic schools throughout our diocese, and certainly in the Hazleton area with Holy Family Academy.
Got 3 grandchildren going to Catholic education.
Thank you for supporting Catholic schools. Your grandfather doing it for them?
Yeah, that's right. My wife and I were, and believe me, it's a great experience. It really is. Bishop, when you were a pastor, and they saw that you have the ability to become a bishop, okay? Do you ever think I'd rather be a pastor again?
It's an interesting thing. I worked for both Bishop Martino and Bishop Timlin, and in both instances, after working for a variety of years, I asked both of them, would you please release me from administrative duty and let me go back into a parish? And in fact, it was when I left working for Bishop Timlin that I went to Cunningham, to St. John Bosco Parish. I love being a pastor. I find myself involved in a lot of things today that might not necessarily be things I anticipated, but my happiest moments still as bishop is pastor of a bigger parish, if you will, the parish of our 11 counties. And it's very consoling to me to be a part of the lives of our people.
Who do you surround yourself with?
Who do I surround myself with?
Yeah.
On a daily...
And I'll tell you why. In your position as a bishop, you have to get input from different people, and you have to trust different people. And just like in my business or any business, you have to make sure you surround yourself with people who you can trust and will say, Bishop, you're wrong, not because you're and be honest with you. So do you surround yourself with people that you can trust? A stupid question, but I'm asking that question.
It's a fair question.
Yeah.
It's a fair question. I do trust the people that I surround myself with. I have about 10 departments here in the diocese that are run by what we refer to as secretaries, department heads, if you will. I have a vicar general, Monsignor Muldowney. I have a vicar for clergy, Father Walsh. I work with him a great deal on personnel issues as well as a personnel board. I have a group of individuals, 4 priests, regional vicars, who support the work that we do in the diocese and oversee it in particular regions of the diocese. So to answer your question, dialogue and consultation is really very, very important to me. In fact, if you talk to the people who work closest to me, those individuals that I just named, they will tell you that I probably talk things into the ground because I want to hear what other people are saying. And one of the most important things that I will share with individuals on my staff is, and they'll tell you this, please don't just tell me what you think I want to hear. Right. Don't test the wind and feel you're going to land where you think I want to land. Tell me what I need to hear. And I get a lot of that.
Prayer is so very important, at least to me. And I look for inspiration. Even coming interviewing today, I'm saying I want to be able to show the 100,000 people that watch my show every week an opportunity of knowing who our Bishop Joseph Bambera is. Okay, now I know you a little differently as a pastor, but those people didn't have you as a pastor. Mm-hmm. But they think there's the bishop right up here, and no one could get to him, no one could talk to him. Does he really care about it? It's just the opposite, I think, with Bambera. Okay, at least I'm correct in. I hope I'm correct in saying that. Do you have an open door policy?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if people, every letter gets responded. You know, a lot of times people will send me letters. Yeah. And they will say, you'll probably never get to see this. Or somebody will probably take this out of the pile and not pass it on to you. I respond to every piece of mail or email that comes into this office. And if people want to see me, we'll set up appointments.
Bishop, I had the honor of speaking at Father Grippy's retirement, and the first thing I opened in my talk was, I want you to look at Monsignor Jordan. I want you to look at Father Grippy. I want to look at Father Generos, and I want you to look at Father Brosk, who were there. Do they have 2 heads? Do they have 3 arms? They're just like us. They're human beings. And we're all human, in a sense, and we need prayers, and we need help, not hell. We need our help. I'm talking about Bishop Joseph Bambera, folks of the Diocese of Scranton. The annual appeal, please consider. We'll be back. We'll do a wrap-up right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. My guest today, the Bishop of the Diocese of Scranton, Joseph Bambera. And Bishop, just a word of comforting of what you, as the bishop, we know you have an open door policy. You've been challenged. God bless you. The priests have been doing wonderful. What do you have to say to those people in your diocese?
You know, we have gone through a very, very difficult time as a church, and we'll continue to do that. The report that was released in August is a watershed moment in our church. We didn't get it right, and a lot of people's faith has been challenged, and there's a lot of trust that needs to be restored. There's a lot of good in our church. There's a lot of wonderful people who continue to minister in it, but a lot of people have been hurt. We need to respond to them, and we need to give our people a reason to trust. My hope and prayer is that people will look at what fundamentally needs to be addressed in everybody's life, meaning and purpose. I believe, and I know you do as well, that that's found through a relationship with God that somehow affects all of our relationships one with another. I would hope that everybody who has been hurt and who is struggling through this, that they can face this moment and not look at me and not say that just because I say I'd like to see you trust the church again, just because I say something does not mean that that's going to change somebody's life. But I would hope that they would recognize that it's through a relationship with God, not a priest or a bishop or a deacon or a sister, that their lives can be turned around. And I would like to believe that we can provide that opportunity through the church. Are we perfect? No. Do we walk with 2 feet on the ground? Very much so. But can we move forward? Is there a mission that's worth engaging? Absolutely. Absolutely. You talked about it in relationship to the appeal. I'd pull it away even from that at the moment, because that makes it sound like I'm just looking for contributions. I'm not. There's a wonderful, life-giving mission that Jesus gave to our church. I just hope and pray that together we can engage that mission, and that will get us through all of the hurdles that we face in life.
Well, I can only say this. I said this when you came in. I pray for you every day, and I think prayers for all the priests, anyone in the clergy, and those new priests that are coming in. I know a few of them. They're excited about becoming a priest, and that makes me feel fantastic. They're enthusiastic about becoming a priest in our diocese. And I think you, as the bishop, you must be very proud of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your time, Bishop.
Thank you.
It's always
Thank
a pleasure.
you.
I wish you the best. Folks, I'm the salesperson here. Maybe not the bishop, but I'm the salesperson. I've seen firsthand what the annual appeal does. It helps so many people. All that money that the annual appeal has services all our friends, families, people we don't know, and it stays in the annual appeal. So consider it in your parishes. We'll see you next time.